One of the false narratives I hear circulating about the translation of the Book of Mormon is that Joseph Smith didn't actually use the golden plates during translation. They quote hearsay, secondhand, antagonistic, or late sources that claim that Joseph didn't even have the plates in the room, or if he did, he just left them covered and unused while dictating to the scribe. Some claim that he used them only as a totem or symbol or battery to strengthen his faith without actually looking at the characters engraved on them. Theories also include the idea that the words of the Book of Mormon just appeared on a single seer stone, or perhaps on the Urim and Thummim, because the entire text was downloaded to the stones, and he was simply dictating the download. As I explained in my other videos, these unreliable accounts of Joseph not using the plates to translate should not be taken as factual. Joseph and his primary scribe, Oliver Cowdery, always affirmed that Joseph used the plates along with the Urim and Thummim attached to a breastplate to translate. So what is the evidence that Joseph Smith actually used the plates to read the characters off the plates to produce the Book of Mormon translation? We have multiple statements from Joseph Smith where he describes the plates, what the engravings looked like, the language they were written in, the direction the language was read, and even a specific example of a location on the plates where the title page was translated from. When Joseph first received the plates, he began copying characters off them onto paper as he began studying and learning how to use the Urim and Thummim. He was creating an alphabet as he learned to read the language. This begs the question, why would he do this if he didn't need to read the characters off the plates? He wouldn't. Although this original transcription of characters was lost, we have other examples of these characters copied from the plates in what is known as the characters document, as well as some additional characters copied into the journals of Oliver Cowdery and Frederick G. Williams. The church even published copies of these characters in 1844 in a broadside, which was a single-sided poster printed in gold leaf on black paper. Clearly, they wanted to show people that the engraved characters were used in the translation of the Book of Mormon. Jerry Grover, a Latter-day Saint scholar, has done an excellent book showing that these characters are in fact closely related to hieratic and demotic Egyptian languages. I'll link the video of the interview with Jerry on this subject in the description. Joseph Smith specifically described using the characters engraved on the plates for the translation. In 1843, he said, "I translated the Book of Mormon from hieroglyphics, the knowledge of which was lost to the world." In 1842, Joseph again described the language of the characters, as well as the size of the plates and how the engravings looked. These records were engraven on plates which had the appearance of gold. Each plate was 6 inches wide and 8 inches long, and not quite so thick as common tin. They were filled with engravings in Egyptian characters, and bound together in a volume as the leaves of a book, with 3 rings running through the whole. The volume was something over 6 inches in thickness, part of which was sealed. The characters on the unsealed part were small and beautifully engraven. The whole book exhibited many marks of antiquity in its construction, and much skill in the art of engraving. How would Joseph know it was filled with engravings if he hadn't looked through every plate on the unsealed portion? Clearly he did. In 1839, Joseph not only explained that he translated from the engravings on the plates, but even gives us the specific example of the location on the plates the title page was translated from. The title page of the Book of Mormon is a literal translation taken from the very last leaf on the left-hand side of the collection or book of plates, which contain the record which has been translated. The language of the whole running the same as Hebrew writing in general, and is a genuine and literal translation of the title page of the original Book of Mormon as recorded on the plates. How much clearer can he be? Notice how Joseph even tells us the direction the language was written on the plates, the same as Hebrew, which would be right to left, then top to bottom. How would he know this if he wasn't reading it? Joseph Smith stated that there was no Greek or Latin upon the plates from which I translated the Book of Mormon. Let the language of the book speak for itself. The characters are called Reformed Egyptian. Clearly, he's looking at the engravings and understanding what language they are and are not. Oliver Cowdery, Joseph's primary scribe, who wrote all but a few pages of the Book of Mormon, said this: "Now Joseph Smith Jr. certainly was the writer of the work, called the Book of Mormon, which was written in ancient Egyptian characters, which was a dead record to us until translated." I have heard and read historians say that Joseph didn't know Reformed Egyptian when he began, and still didn't know it when he was finished. This is refuted by several key points. The first is that when Joseph copied characters off the plates to give to Martin Harris to take to the learned men, he gave him a translation of those characters that went with it. Joseph said, "I commenced copying the characters off the plates. I copied a considerable number of them, and by means of the Urim and Thummim I translated some of them." Martin Harris reported, I went to the city of New York and presented the characters which had been translated, with the translation thereof, to Professor Charles Anthon, a gentleman celebrated for his literary attainments. Professor Anthon stated that the translation was correct, more so than any he had before seen translated from the Egyptian. I then showed him those which were not yet translated. Clearly, Joseph could translate the characters, even while he was learning at the very beginning of the process. The Lord also specifically references the plates and the engravings in Doctrine and Covenants 10:40-45. The account which is engraven upon the plates of Nephi is more particular, therefore. You shall translate the engravings which are on the plates of Nephi. There are many things engraven upon the plates of Nephi. You should translate this first part of the engravings of Nephi. Note, he is translating the engravings. The account comes from the engravings on the plates, not from the seer stone or even from the Urim and Thummim. It's from the engravings. Also notice the unique language used by the three witnesses in their testimony. They said that they have seen the plates which contain this record. Then they go on to specify that we have seen the engravings which are upon the plates, and that an angel of God came down from heaven, and he brought and laid before our eyes that we beheld and saw the plates and the engravings thereon. Notice again that seeing the engravings is listed as separate from seeing the plates. If the plates were only used as a symbol of faith, why specifically show the engravings? The 8 witnesses also specifically mention seeing the engravings as separate from just seeing the plates. And as many of the leaves as the said smith has translated, we did handle with our hands, and we also saw the engravings thereon, all of which has the appearance of ancient work and of curious workmanship. How much more plain can Joseph be? How much more plain can Oliver be? How much more plain can God be? How much more plain can the witnesses be? They all testify of not only the plates, but specifically the engravings on the plates. The Book of Mormon didn't come from words appearing on a stone. It came from engravings called Egyptian characters or hieroglyphics that were found on the plates. The divine instrument, the Urim and Thummim, was used to help Joseph Smith understand and translate those engravings in a miraculous way. God gave him sight and power to translate. The false idea that the plates and the engravings were not being used is totally inconsistent with the testimony of the Lord, Joseph Smith, and Oliver Cowdery. And now you understand. Pass it on. Thanks for watching.